Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the News Project Live on GNAT-TV's Facebook page. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director at GNAT-TV's News Project, and it's a pleasure to have you with us again today on Friday, February 11th. Sure looks like a beautiful day out there. Warm and sunny, almost spring-like, one could say. So, hope you'll have a chance to get outside and enjoy a bit of that. My understanding is that we're going to get little chillier again come next Monday or so. So hopefully the weekend at least will be kind of nice and pleasant. Anyway, just a quick couple of stories to pass on to you that we're following and maybe doing some more reporting on a little bit later. First up, the report that the consulting group MRI um, produced about a month or so ago, or at least a PowerPoint presentation of that report that was shown to the Manchester Select Board on January 11th, exactly 1 month ago, about the Northshire Rescue Squad and some of the concerns that they turned up in that PowerPoint is now available as a full-blown report, 65 pages. It is available on the Manchester Town website if you want to read it. Essentially, it came up to a lot of the same conclusions that the PowerPoint presentation they made a month ago arrived at. There were some concerns about response times and whether or not the town of Manchester, which had half the population in the five-town service area that the rescue squad operates in, that includes Danby, Mount Tabor, part of Windhall, and Dorset, along with Manchester, whether or not um the way their service operation was shaking out was kind of, was working out well for the town of Manchester. Um, so, obviously, as many of you will remember, that PowerPoint presentation kind of drew some comment in response by the Northshire Rescue Squad. They responded with a presentation of their own at Burton Academy on January 31st. So at this point, I guess what we're seeing is some communication back and forth between town officials and the board members of the rescue squad to see if they can iron out some of the differences and perceptions that seem to be in play. So we'll obviously be following that along. A very important story as we start off a new year. The rescue squad faulted the consultant's sort of Manchester-centric focus in the report and defended its quality of service and employee training and response times. And so we'll see where that all goes. One option, apparently, that the consulting firm suggested might be an alternative for the town is to consider opening up its own ambulance service and maybe using some of the federal ARPA money to help fund that. But I guess that's a conversation that we'll see where that goes. Anyway, um, bottom line is the consulting report is now out again on the Manchester Town website. That's manchester-vt.gov. And you can go there and, well, 65 pages ought to keep you going for a little while. Turning up to Montpelier for a little bit. Some news on some bills that have been under discussion up there. One involved firearm background checks and banning guns from hospitals. The bill passed the legislature this week. It is now heading to Governor Phil Scott's desk. So far, the governor has not indicated whether or not he will sign it or not. In the past, the governor has said that he feels like the firearms legislation rules that are currently in place are kind of pretty much all right, just from the way they are. So we'll see whether or not this is perceived to be an expansion or change of some sort that he finds concerning. Uh, if it does come to a veto, Um, the Senate has the votes, the state Senate seems to have the votes to overturn that. It's more questionable in the House. The vote was 91 to 53. It requires a two-thirds majority to overturn a governor's veto, so they need 100 votes. So whether or not there are 9 votes that might switch out from the 53 who've opposed that legislation when it was up before the House is, I guess, the key question. But anyway, I guess one of the issues around the background check is that under the legislation that passed through the legislature, if a background check is not completed in 30 days, it can be restarted. Most background checks apparently are completed well within the 30-day period, but I guess there are a few that take longer, and some of the folks who opposed the bill noted that and said that you could just create a endless loop, as they put it. So anyway, certainly an interesting bill to follow. Another one that the governor vetoed, I think it was on Wednesday, was one that would have established a statewide registry of residential contractors. This would have been one that the if someone, let's say, had a contractor come and was dissatisfied with the work, or in another case, let's say deposit money was taken and no work done. Right now, there's not an easy way for that person to kind of seek recompense or damages. So what this law would have done was to have formed a registry of contractors that would have made it much easier to track some of them down. Um, anyway, the governor vetoed that bill, saying that there were already plenty of ways to hold bad actors accountable. But that would be a home improvement fraud registry, probably what the governor was referring to, and that is not quite the same thing as the registry that the bill was proposing. In other words, basically any contractor would have had to have sort of formally, registered with the state agency and given contact information, that sort of thing. So anyway, whether or not that bill will be overturned is, I guess, another question. Where at this point, it's not clear that there are 100 votes in the state house to reverse that decision. Going to politics just real quickly, some of you may have heard that former Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman, a progressive Democrat, has thrown his hat back in the ring for his old job. He ran for governor in 2020, many of you will remember, against Phil Scott. He lost that race. He's been kind of quiet for the last couple of years, but has decided that he's not finished with politics just yet. So he has joined what has now become an extremely crowded field for the lieutenant governor spot, which is really kind of not surprising, since Molly Gray, the current lieutenant governor, has announced she's a candidate for the congressional seat in the U.S. Congress, being vacated by Peter Welch, who's going to be running for the Senate seat, being vacated by Patrick Leahy. So that kind of opened up the whole lieutenant governor position for a number of people that decided they might want to have a look at that. Some of the others who are already involved on the Democrat side, at least, a former representative from Danville, Kitty Toll, she chaired the House Committee on Appropriations back when she was in the State House fairly recently. Another representative from the Woodstock area, Charlie Kimball. He was actually, I think, the first person to announce he was interested. And also a political newcomer, Patricia Preston, currently serving as the executive director of the Vermont Council on World Affairs, is also running in the Democratic primary. So we will see. Mr. Zuckerman is the only one of them, of course, who's run a statewide race and presumably has some name recognition advantage over the others. But, well, we've got a long way to go to August, but it's going to be an interesting race to watch, I'm sure. Over on the Republican side, the GOP, longtime state Senator Joe Benning, a Republican from Caledonia County, has announced he's throwing his hat in the ring for that lieutenant governor's post, along with Gregory Thayer, who's a conservative activist and former Republican County Republican Party chair. So there will be some activity on the Republican side as well. All very interesting. Meanwhile, looking at the congressional race, there were Lieutenant Governor Molly Gray, State Senator Becca Balint, and State Senator Keisha Ram Hinsdale, all three Democrats are running in the Democrat primary to succeed Peter Welch, assuming they then go on to win in the general election. There's no Republican yet announced for that seat. And conversely, no Democrat has announced they are interested in opposing Governor Phil Scott, who is running, of course, and well, we assume is going to be running in the Republican candidate primary because he hasn't officially announced yet either. It would certainly be major news if he decided not to run for re-election. All indications are that he will be, but not official yet. I believe the governor is waiting till after the legislative session is over before announcing. But anyway, it's just interesting that there's no Democrat that yet has stepped forward and say, I want to run for governor. Whereas there are, what, 5 announced for the lieutenant governor. Getting back to the local scene, just a few town meeting notes. We're following stuff as close as we can and producing a couple of reports in some of the individual towns that are getting ready for town meeting on March 1st. Some towns will be holding information meetings either in person, others will be having it on Zoom, some will be having theirs early. The town of Sunderland, for instance, will be having their information meeting on Monday, February 21st. Others are waiting until the weekend before town meeting. I believe Shaftesbury is holding theirs on the 27th. Arlington is holding theirs on the 28th, as is Dorset. Winhall will be doing I guess you could call it an old-fashioned in-person town meeting up there on Tuesday, March 1st. But in Arlington, we did a report this week about 3 interesting articles that will be on there warning about forming a climate mitigation fund to help reduce carbon emissions, financing that with about $50,000, and also asking voters if they're in favor of reducing those emissions, through energy efficiencies or carbon sequestration. On the election front in Arlington, also kind of an interesting scene there because there are actually a couple of contested races, which are increasingly becoming a rarity. On the school board side, there is one contested race. Former state trooper Luke Hall is running against incumbent Nicole Whalen for the 3-year term on the Arlington School Board. Over on the select board side, Jessica Elwell Bacciocchi is running for the 2-year position on the, she's running also in the school board seat, 2-year position on the Arlington School Board seat that's currently held by Robert Zink, who is not running for re-election. So, on the select board side in Arlington, get my notes a little mixed up here. Matthew Bukowski is stepping down after one 3-year term, and James Postian and Vincent Thompson have filed papers to be candidates for that seat. And then also on the select board in Arlington, Cynthia Browning is seeking another term and being opposed by Joe Jervis. So 1, 2, 3 contested elections in Arlington. There is also a contested election of sorts in the Taconic Green regional school district director's race. There is one director from Manchester, a 2-year term. John Wilson is running for that position. Then there are there's 3 3-year terms that are expiring this year, and then 4 directors from any of the 4 largest towns in the district. That would be Danby, Dorset, Londonderry, and Manchester. David Chandler, Lindsay Ralph, Alexander Weil, and Jeff Wilson are running for those seats. Otherwise, in Manchester, there are no contested races. Greg Cutler is running for re-election to his 2-year seat. Excuse me, he'll be running for a 3-year seat on the select board. And Laurie Coons, who currently holds a 3-year seat, she is running for a 2-year seat. And then just to wrap things up, COVID numbers for today, just announced and posted on the Department of Health website. 391 new cases reported. That's down slightly from yesterday, where we had 398. So the trend line is getting a little better than it was a few weeks ago. Currently, there are 80 folks in the hospital today. That's a slight increase over yesterday, where we had 76. There are 20 folks in the ICUs around the state. Slight improvement over yesterday when there were 23. There is one additional death since yesterday, so we're now up to 566 Vermonters that we've lost since the start of the COVID pandemic. In Bennington County, we saw 12 new cases over the past day, giving us a total of 351 cases over the past 2 weeks. Rutland County saw 23 new cases, giving them 415 over the past 2 weeks. And over in Windham County, 4 new cases, 145 over the past 2 weeks. Well, that's where we'll leave it for today. I want to thank you all for being with us. And like I said earlier, hope you have a chance to get outside and enjoy some of that beautiful weather out there. So, for the GNAT-TV News Project and for our News Project Live program, I'm Andrew McKeever. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day, great weekend. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.